Riders and fans, in today's video, we are going to use some of the top riders to show us how to case jumps properly, and also we'll deep dive into some of the mistakes because of track conditions. We can all agree that one-line tracks prohibit good racing because riders can't pass each other. Really, the only way to pass is to come in hot on them and try to take the line away that RJ did to Smith. And truthfully, for an RJ pass, that was pretty good. He didn't make contact. He came in there with authority to say, hey, I'm going to make the pass. He knows exactly where Smith is. Smith is already getting ready to pivot to jump on top of the tabletop. And RJ gives him enough room just in case he is going to jump. And that's exactly what Smith did. Unfortunately, Smith checked up just briefly, and so his body positioning was off, and he lands on the tough block. And thank goodness he was able to keep it on two wheels, but RJ got the pass done. And I was surprised that I didn't see more passes like this happening, because there's these 90s that make it hard to pass, and then plus because these conditions and these tabletops also make it hard to pass. I like the 180-degree corners, and I like somewhat options, and I'm not a huge fan of these tabletops, especially out of a corner. Maybe the triple on tabletops are one thing, but here in Denver, the altitude, the lack of horsepower made it to where these riders really didn't have a whole lot of options. Moving on to Levi, this is interesting because his boot did come out, and I'm a little bit upset that I didn't ask him the question at the press conference. However, semantics, I digress. It is important that his two bottom buckles, those are basically the ones that are providing the ankle support, were undone. If it was these two buckles that were undone and these top two, he would definitely feel like, I feel like I'm sort of riding with tennis shoes. But that's not my point here. The point is watch his heel. He's floating. Levi does a wonderful job of being loose on the motorcycle. You've seen it in my videos before where he's completely standing up. This is why he is one of the best 250 riders. And truthfully, I will go out there and say he is the best 250 rider in Supercross at the moment between East and West. And we'll find out this weekend at Salt Lake City. But watch where he lands. Okay, he is on his toes here, and this is different than the next clip I'm going to show you with Tomac, and this is because he's not casing the jump. He is still in attack position, and he's able to use his ankle so that he can soak stuff up, and he can also pivot off of that. And it's like when you go to do a big squat, you're squatting down and you're pushing into the ground like a deadlift or any of those heavy lifting, and that's one of these improvements that we've seen over the decade where riders used to be on their heels before, and you'd see lots of guys wear their boots down here the majority of the times. I'm guilty. That's how I was taught, but this is an innovation that has happened over the last 10 years or so when it comes to motorcycle racing. Here in the next clip, let's watch Tomac as he comes off one of these corners and he ends up getting sideways and he has to check up and not jump the triple. Look at how far away he is from the foot pegs. He is darn near doing a Superman, but watch where he moves. He moves his feet all the way to that arch of his foot to take the majority of the impact. That was a massive impact. And the reason that is important is because this is a rider that has an Achilles tear on that side, or had. And when you ride in case a jump like Levi, if you're on your toes, well, you're putting a lot of pressure, and you could break that joint and break that tendon there. And it's the same thing with your wrist. If you land wide open, well, there's no more room for that to go, and you're going to break it, and you're going to see riders break their bones on top, actually get pushed on top of their forearm here. So the proper way of casing is just what Tomac did, is move that foot into the middle to where there is a one position contact point from your foot all the way to your leg to take the to spread out the impact throughout the entire body as opposed to having it be isolated into one joint. These top riders do an incredible job of staying consistent with their lap times no matter the duration of the race. And part of it is because they're fueled properly. And Coach Rob has a new sweat analysis program that provides the proper concentration of carbohydrates necessary for your muscles. So I need you to go to coachrobstore.com, fill that out, and you will be able to find out what package is best for you. This next clip we're going to see is him falling down and spraining his wrist. How did this happen? Well, first off, this is muddy and slippery, so the bike is going to slip. He's not in the main line, which that's the line he should have been, because watch how that bike slips, falls into it, and as soon as it bounces off of that rut, it gets him off-centered, and he was going down from that point. And it's not his right arm, it's his left hand right here. It's just enough isolation in that one joint to potentially give you problems out here. We'll watch that in real time, and you'll see as soon as he slides in there, it gets him off, and that happens to another rider later on in this video. Because if we move on to Sexton, I had high hopes for Sexton. He looked good in press. He looked good in his heat race. And in the main event, unfortunately, he just went down. And part of the reason why we see a lot of crashes like this is, yes, it has to do with the track conditions. Really, what Denver should have been possibly doing is they could have been watering this quite a bit as far as the start, tilling it up. I know those skid steers have all that. To me, this was just churned up dirt that created these marbles, and with how hard packed the track is, it's basically like ice on top of it. So when these riders lean in, well, that front end is going to push, and that front end is especially going to push if these guys still have their hole shot buttons down and they haven't released. And what's going to happen? It's going to chatter that front end, and he's just going to push it in low side, which is unfortunate because I asked Jet on the podium why he has such a competitive advantage over everybody and what is he doing differently. And he said that his starts is what enabling him to finish as well. We all know that you can't beat Jet, especially if you start behind him. Watch how fast Malcolm comes into this corner to get around Cooper. Hauls freaking butt, and to get past from the outside is saying something. I just said in the previous clip how slippery this stuff is, and these corners and these ruts, they are not moving because they are so hard packed and cement. But watch, if we slow this down, what happens? He comes in there hot, and look at his inside leg. He dabs it into the rut, and Cooper could have taken him out, but Malcolm did a good job of taking himself out because that leg ends up dragging him down. And yes, this hook here is going to have him exit in front of Cooper. It's not to where it's just completely straight. It's a hip rut where it's going to bounce him out there, which just added to the inertia with him falling down. However, it was really that leg that dragged him down. If he left that leg up just a little bit higher or just kept his feet on the foot pegs, he more than likely wouldn't have crashed and would have made an incredible pass. Well, that's really all I have for you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification icon. My goal is to get to 60,000 by the end of motocross, so help me do this. Till next time, bra-da-da-da-da.